Well, if you're in Pacific Northwest time, good afternoon and welcome to the OpenSearch community meeting for May 23rd. It is indeed a Tuesday, 2023. My name is Nate Boot. I'm a developer advocate for OpenSearch, and I'm here to MC through this community meeting. And of course, my colleague, David Tippett, is here. Happy as always, the amazing Mr. Tippett, ready to rock. Are you ready, David?
I'm ready to rock. I am
ready as well. So let's do it. We've got some etiquette that we always have to go through here, just in case you're new. Please do introduce yourself before speaking. Please mute yourself unless you're actively speaking. Cameras are, of course, optional, and you can ask questions anytime in the chat or audio. And if anyone is intentionally disruptive, they will be removed from the meeting. Although if a presenter is speaking and they have a preference between real-time questions or not, let's try to adhere to their preference. We've turned off a few things: screen annotations, profile pictures. Screen sharing is only for hosts and co-hosts, and a few other things, most recently renaming yourself to make yourself look like one of us. Savvy? Awesome. So we've got a number of announcements here. Let's check this out. We've got a call for presentations for OpenSearchCon 2023 is open. Tell all your friends, tell your neighbors, call your local radio station and ask them to play your favorite song in dedication for OpenSearch 2023, OpenSearchCon 2023.
Also, it's urgent. Our CFP is only open to the 9th, so make sure to get those in quick.
Yeah, we've got a webpage you can go to, and yes, David is correct. There's not too much time left to get those in, so we've got to move quick. Also, Berlin Buzzwords is coming up on the 18th through 20th of June. I believe we will have a presence there. And then 2 release announcements. OpenSearch 2.7.0 is released. We've got a blog entry for it. I'm not monitoring chat, so I'm hoping someone can put that blog entry in there, link. And then, of course, 1.3.10 was also released. I've provided a link to the release notes. Have at it. Anything special to note, David?
I was going to say, did you want me to run the slides real quick for the 2.7 release?
Yeah.
Talk about what happened there? Yeah, here we go. Which we're, of course, a little bit late because we missed last week's meeting. However, we thought it was worth bringing up because there's a ton of cool stuff. Segment Rep is out of beta and ready for production. Tons of people have already been seeing like some serious ingestion increases by enabling that, just by reducing the work on your replication. So that's phenomenal. I'm super glad to see that out. We have searchable snapshots that's available now. That allows you to search, basically off of a remote store, something like an S3. So you don't have to have all of that on hot indexes. So that's phenomenal. Managing data sources across multiple clusters. So that is just allows you to connect from dashboards into multiple different data sources. So super cool. We have more observability features that have come in. Component templates are actually one that I think is super interesting. This is one that I was like, I think we talked about it actually in a community meeting, maybe like 3 or 4 months ago, where we were like, hey, it'd be really cool if like we could take like these parts that we're reusing from index template to index template and like abstract it away. And here it is. Thank you, community. So super glad to see that in there. Basically, it lets you take just a certain portion of your index template and create a like stored object that you can access again and again. And that way, when the index template gets updated, it gets rolled out everywhere, which is cool. We have flat objects now. That was a big request by a lot of people, actually, just for those with crazily nested JSON documents, which also blows my mind as well. Like, how do you have such crazy large documents? But they exist, and this is a very common request. So that is available now. We have shape-based filters, which we really need to get more, or I'll speak for myself. I really need to get more in touch with the geospatial features because I'm not super privy on them. However, you can draw abstract shapes and use them as filters now. So that's cool. We have Performance Analyzer can now identify hot shards within an index. So you can go and then action on that and say, hey, maybe we need to scale this out or something along those lines. We also had quite a few experimental features released. There's a correlation engine for security analytics. So basically abstracts, events that happened together and lets you identify and repeat that pattern. It's very magical. I don't understand it completely. I'm not a security guy, but I'm trying here. We have the ML framework has a hot reload mechanism. Oh, maybe hot reload actually isn't the right word for that. We have a new reloading mechanism that allows deployed models to get reloaded when a cluster restarts, which is phenomenal. So you don't have to prop that back up if your cluster restarts. So that's huge. Also, Bill called this one out at the final hour. We have ZTSD and ZTSD no dict compression codecs. This is available as an optional plugin, and it's only enableable on a per index basis. So you have to pull the plugin in, and then per each index on creation, this has to be configured. Some people have, I think he was saying there was like 10% less storage or performance increase. I think it was 10% less, 10% performance increase, and then lower storage needed. So this is phenomenal. There is a documentation pull request in right now. So check this out, try it out, benchmark it, write a blog about it, please. And then everyone else can kind of know what kind of gains they could expect to have with that. So with that, those are the highlights. Thank you. This has been Power Hour with David. And now back to you, Nate.
Thank you for that, David. Power Hour is correct. Let's keep on going. I think we stopped at 2.7.0. We released 1.3.10 also. Pow. And then one more thing. We need everyone to click on that survey link one more time. Or rather, for the first time, if you haven't yet already, we would really, really love to have some of your feedback. And the only way we can get some of that is to have you click on there and let us know, how you're using OpenSearch, and whatever info you can provide would be great. Yeah, awesome. All right. Well, today's agenda. Joshua Bright is there. We're going to have Lior Perry go first today. So these are not listed in the order of operations here, but demo of alerting and AD integration with dashboards. I'm going to assume that stands for anomaly detection and not Active Directory or some such nonsense. And then Lior is here to give us a demonstration of the OTEL observability capabilities, which is going to be awesome. He's really excited about it.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thanks again for having me. And I hope to come back soon with more used stuff from the observability domain. So again, hi, everyone. I'm Lior Perry. I work for OpenSearch, and I'm emphasizing and working on closely on the observability domain and languages, SQL, PPL, and we're really trying hard lately to incorporate all the ML changes going on around the world, and we probably will have news on that domain as well. But today I wanted to share latest development from OpenSearch regarding the OpenTelemetry. And the recent development that we have had is integrating and forking the OpenTelemetry demo. And this demo application is actually something that is very useful for many vendors, observability vendors, and users, so that they can experiment and get a good understanding of what's going on behind the scenes for observability and the OpenTelemetry observability. So this latest development is something that we forked recently, and we wanted to incorporate all the observability plugin goodness in one place, so that users can actually benefit and understand how to use OpenSearch and OpenTelemetry with a real, almost live application. So the application is this OpenTelemetry demo, which is an astronomy shop, which is kind of nice for people who are interested in astronomy and buying astronomy equipment. And it's quite expensive, but it's fake, so it doesn't matter. Anyhow, so the observability demo is really documented very well here on the OpenTelemetry website. And there's a Git repository which is used to fork. You can see there are quite substantial number of forks. And these forks represent many types of use cases, mostly on how vendors and how different usage patterns are actually being implemented and experimented. And we've done the same. So currently, this is my own fork, but we're very soon opening the fork in our own OpenSearch repository, and then everything will go in there. So the OTEL demo is actually, as I mentioned, a shop, astronomy shop. It has multiple services, more than 20 microservices. And these services are described also here in the details list of both of the OpenTelemetry description, and also we've done quite a few details of how these services communicate with one another. And on top of that, what's the relationship between them? So if you really want to dive in, you can find all the details also in our repository. So it includes mostly the signals observability signals, which are logs, traces, and metrics. And they're being collected by the OTEL collector. And after being collected by the OTEL collector, which can be seen here, they're going into an OTEL exporter, which submits all the information into OpenSearch. So it's very, very easy to run this. Just Docker compose up, and you get a bunch of services, including all the OpenSearch and observability services, which will give you a very good representation of what's going on behind the scene with this application. So we can just dive in. Let's start with the front end, which is the store. We can start shopping here. We can do some shopping binoculars. Oops, that's really expensive. I'm not sure my wife would be happy, but never mind. It's for a good cause. Anyhow, so I can do that quite a bit, but fortunately we have a loading mechanism, which is load generator. And this load generator creates loads on top of the demo application, and you can have it create different types of load generator. And there's also the obviously time series Prometheus, which reports what's going on behind the scene in metrics being accumulated by the OTEL exporter. Part of the services is the building Grafana, which we're also trying to show that we can have similar services, but you can obviously take a look and get the overall picture if you're fond of Grafana. And now let's see what we're offering. So out of the box, we're giving you an experience, which is a landing page. And that landing page, you can see all the details regarding how to actually use observability within the OTEL demo. So you get a kind of a tutorial, which is packed into a markdown dashboard, and it gives you a very good starting point. Next, we can see that all the logs coming from the Nginx, which is the proxy for the front end, is being reflected in this dashboard. So this dashboard gives you, this is a pre-canned dashboard, which gives you a very nice understanding of the response code, error rates over time, and data volume. And this is being ingested using the Fluent bit, which knows how to take the Nginx logs, transform them to the simple schema for observability, and ingest them directly into OpenSearch dedicated data stream. On top of that, we also have the trace analytics. So we don't have errors, but we have ingested volumes. In trace analytics, we have two types of ingester. One is the Jaeger, and the other one is data prepper. So both share similar characteristics of trace and spans, but our own data prepare also creates an enrichment in which it marks all the services and can give you throughput presentation of the services and error rates. If we go back, we can see an error rate for recent time. We can go back and actually see the error that have occurred during this service. And you can really drill down and understand from each service what's behind the scene, going to the traces, from the traces going to the spans, see the trending. Everything is visual here. Very, very useful. So these are the traces, trace analytics, also available through our own data prepare and Jaeger, which is directly submitting information from its OTEL exporter into the dedicated index that shows the traces. And in addition, we have, as David mentioned earlier, we have the data source, which is coming from Prometheus. And now this is a time series coming from Prometheus, showing everything going on behind the scene, ingesting data from Prometheus. So we're actually federating time series here, in addition to the logs that we've seen earlier in the Nginx dashboard and the traces on top of the overall system behavior. So we have one place to govern all the information, and everything is, I would say, very, very clear to observe behavior of your system. And what we're trying to achieve in this demo is actually not only to showcase how to actually build your own dashboard, but also give some recommendations and best practices that we will eventually create some tutorials for the user to understand how to utilize their system and how to build the corresponding dashboards and alerts based on the SLAs and SLO of their system. And that was a very quick overview. And now I'll be happy to answer questions. Again, this is just temporary. We will have our own OpenSearch fork for the OTEL very soon, and everything will be there. And obviously can create discussions and issues so we can continue collaborating and enriching that content as well.
One question, how extensive is the integration with Prometheus? Like, is the full spec kind of fleshed out, or is it, a couple of, key, what is that called? Like query syntax that's supported?
So currently we're creating PPL into Prometheus QL queries. And I think in the future, we're planning also to incorporating the alert manager, which will gain us the capability on ingesting alerts and notifying directly in OpenSearch. So federating information from time series. Obviously, the next phase, we're talking about CloudWatch as well. So we're becoming a federated observability solution. And obviously, direct from QL is also supported, yeah, and it states correctly.
Nice. I'm clicking through on some of these, and it looks like there's some good usage examples on how to set up Data Prepper by itself. And
Yes.
There's a lot of good starting points, even if the whole assembly of things is a little confusing. But I'm definitely going to spend a few minutes with it.
Do we envision storing metrics in Prometheus as standard thing, or is it just show how open things are? It's an excellent question, and I'm not sure I have a good answer for it. I think this is something open for discussion. Yes, definitely open for discussion.
I think Prometheus is a very popular standard for storing metrics. It is used by everybody. We ourselves use it for many things. So there are metric stores which are in CloudWatch, metric stores which is in Prometheus. There is Victoria Metrics. I think our goal is to be an open platform for analyzing metrics, logs, and traces together, regardless of where the metrics are. We also store metrics in OpenSearch, which is not the ideal place to store metrics due to performance reasons, but it works and it scales enough for some use cases. There are also a lot of RFCs open to improve OpenSearch's own capabilities as a metric store for high cardinality storage. So to answer the question, I think Prometheus will be a standard thing, and there will be other things coming.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Lior.
Yeah, thanks, Lior. That was awesome. Well, I think next up on the agenda is our own Joshua Bright.
Hello, hello.
There he is. I knew he was around here somewhere.
I'm around here somewhere. So a number of you, I think we've had a conversation before when we were talking about how can we start to bring in plugin functionality into OpenSearch dashboards. And the plugin functionality that we're targeting is anomaly detection and alerting, and being able to augment the events that are triggered from each respective plugin over visualizations within a dashboard. So we've been working on this for quite a while at this point, and we've made a lot of progress. So we wanted to show and check in with the community, because I think it's been a while, maybe since February or so that we checked in. We wanted to show off where we're at and get some good feedback. We hope to release this very soon. We're trying to get this functionality to be available within Playground. At this point, Playground is a read-only store. So creating monitors and creating detectors is a writing functionality. So we're trying to figure out a way that we can get this in as many hands as possible and make it easy for people to play with. But Ashish is here to demonstrate some of the progress that we have been making. So Ashish, be able to share your screen okay?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm one of the developers also working on this functionality. Let me just make sure I share the right screen.
There you go.
Cool. Awesome. Hi, everyone. I'm one of the developers working on this functionality to expose this plugin functionality on dashboards. Because ideally right now, the current way for like alerting and anomaly detection is we have to go to the plugin page of alerting or anomaly detection and create these monitors in this experience, and then only kind of see those monitor information in the monitor details page. However,
Hey.
that
Sorry, real quick, could you zoom in your screen just a smidge?
yeah.
Thank you.
Is this good?
That looks good. Thanks.
Okay. So currently right now, we have to kind of go to these different plugin pages to view these monitoring detectors and see that information there. But sometimes this information is useful to see on a dashboard visualization when you're already seeing relevant data. So we worked on to implement like integration points for plugins to overlay information on dashboards itself. So here I'll bring up a dashboard I've already pre-created, and here is a line chart I have generated. So essentially what we're doing is through this three-dot menu, we're exposing some new options to users so they can kind of interact with the different plugins that have that is working on this framework. So essentially they have onboarded onto the framework to have their information exposed here. So if you go and click on alerting, we can kind of like create a new alerting monitor and add it to this visualization, as well as see what is associated monitors already associated to this visualization. So that way we can overlay those alerts onto this visualization and see at what timestamps those are showing up. So currently, if you look at associated monitors, I've already associated 4 different alerting monitors to this visualization itself. So we can already see some information that these are all enabled when the last alerts were generated, as well as if we click here, we can go to the plugin page, and this will go to the monitor details page. So that way in a new tab, so you can still have the idea of like what's going on. So that just brings up a new tab. And if we go to associate a monitor, we also have the capability to, if you already create another set of monitors, we don't want to try to have only created monitors associated to this visualization. This allows us to create any sort of monitor we've already had and associate to this visualization so we can see those alerts and anomalies here. So one step is we can click on a multiple alerts monitor, and this will give some information before you want to associate it to this visualization. And you can click on associate monitor. And just now, just to give a little bit more context about what this association really means, and I talked about its overlaying alerts. So if you see right here, there's this red dot, red triangle, and it's pointing at this particular timestamp. So what this is actually indicating is that at this point in time, the monitors that are already associated to this visualization, there are some alerts around this timestamp range. And this is kind of giving that extra alerting monitor information and overlaying that information onto the visualization dashboard itself. And since there's multiple monitors and maybe also alerting anomaly detectors associated to this visualization, you may want to kind of see a detailed breakdown of where these alerts and anomalies are coming from, these events essentially are coming from. So you can click on this menu option, and there's this piece called View Events. So what this is essentially doing, we see the entire overlay graph, and now we can see like a breakdown of where these events are coming from. So this multiple alerts monitor, that the one I newly associated, has a alert at this particular timestamp around like 2:30 p.m. And then there's some different alerts that are generated at the same time from these 2 monitors at this point in time. So we can kind of see a further breakdown. And if we have associated anomaly detection detectors here, there'll be another section saying like anomaly detectors, and have their different detectors mentioned here, and see a very similar graph and experience as this. So far I've kind of showed the idea of like associating existing monitor and seeing this information. So another piece I'll showcase is the creating a brand new monitor from the visualization itself. So you can click on add alerting monitor. So by default, what we're trying to do is we try to get as much information from the visualization and pre-set up a alerting monitor for the user. So here we create a dummy monitor name that's taking the visualization ID, visualization name, and appending some numbers that the user can easily modify, as well as they can click. Let me delete this notification. So as well, they can also go to the advanced data source configuration and see if they want to modify the monitor configuration setup. If they don't want to use counter documents, if they want to use this different field. Additionally, they can change the time range they want to look at, adding data filters and group by. This essentially is a very similar experience to the alerting monitor page when you create a monitor, test monitor 1. So here it's already filling out the index information based off the visualization. It's already using the time field based off the visualization as well, and just creating a simple metric that we saw: count of documents, time range, and there was no data filters and group by setup, just like how we're seeing it here as well. And additionally, we also create another simple trigger for the user, and this is something they can set up and do a little more configurations themselves. But here they can modify it, as well as if there's any notification channels they have already configured in the notification plugin, they can add a notification channel there. So currently I have not configured any notification channels. So for now, I'll remove this piece and then create the monitor. So we see line 655092 was just created. So if I go to the alerting piece and go to associated monitors, we'll also now see that piece shown here. And if we refresh this page real quick, we will also see this alert that came from the new monitor that was from multiple alerts monitor. And additionally, right now, I'm not able to show the anomaly detection user experience. However, it is very similar to the alerting plugin user experience of how you can see the associate detectors, associate an existing detector, as well as create a brand new detector from a flyout. Very simple. That's also retrieving information from the visualization and filling it on behalf of the user. And they are also able to modify it on the fly if they would like. And this is the overall experience kind of the user can expect from this behavior. And additionally, so like I mentioned before, we essentially created like a framework and expose some pieces in OpenSearch dashboards to allow the alerting plugin as well as the anomaly detection plugin to integrate these their pieces into the dashboard visualizations to show these pieces, as well as overlay the particular alert and anomaly information here. And once we do the launch, we will also have some information and documentation on how developers for their own plugins too can also integrate with that same framework and also have their information overlaid, and they can have some slight different modifications based off what their use case is. And obviously, if there's maybe some pieces that are not supporting all their use cases, we'll be gladly to take in more feature requests for this to expand the functionality of this as time goes on. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I'll jump out with a question. So if I'm reading this right, this test dashboard that you have going, that's just an arbitrary aggregation, right? And then you can either, if you have an anomaly detector running, you can associate that with this visualization, or use it to just kind of populate as much of the detector fields as it can.
Yeah, so populate as many detector fields as you can and then create a brand new anomaly detector. Like how we create a brand
Gotcha.
new alerting monitor, you can do the same thing and create a brand new anomaly detector from there as well. And I do actually, that's a good point. One thing I do want to clarify also, this is a normal OpenSearch dashboard, not the observability dashboard. So this is pretty simple to create. So this was I just generated a brand new dashboard and then associated a line chart to this dashboard itself. And since this association between the alerting monitor and anomaly detector to the visualization is just to the visualization itself and not to the dashboard, even though I created this brand new dashboard, we still see the associated information here because it's the same visualization object.
Yeah, so it's up to the user to make sure they're associating the right detector with the right visualization, because otherwise they don't know much about each other. It's up to you to associate them.
Exactly.
And then make that work for your own environment.
Yeah. And they also have the ability, when they go to like associated monitors, they could then unlink these association, like these monitors from the visualization because later they decide it's not really relevant anymore. So then they want you to remove those association pieces.
Does that stop the detector in question?
So no, so all what this is doing is we're not making any changes to the backend. So we're just there's like a front end piece. We're just linking this alerting monitor to this visualization. And then now by this unlinking, we're just removing that association, but we're not affecting the visualization at all, or we're not affecting the alerting monitor that's running or the anomaly detector that's running as well.
Gotcha. That's cool. I really like how you've worked the two features together there. And I wonder, I envision a time where people will start seeing anomalies and then, by through repetition start expecting another anomalies based off of that. And it's something you would have never been able to determine without being able to kind of juxtapose the anomalies with the aggregate that you're looking at.
Yeah, exactly. And one nice thing is that you can also sometimes just overlay multiple monitors or anomalies onto the same visualization. So you can kind of do more deep dive analysis on that.
Cool.
Just to clarify, this is Greg. I work for a company called SAS. So the anomalies and the alerts are only based though on the metric being shown in that line chart, correct?
So there's two pieces to that. So what you can do is when you create a brand new monitor, you're using the metrics from the line chart itself. And if you want to kind of reconfigure it, because right now it's using order, date, and everything. So if we want to kind of change some of these metrics, so let's say instead of count of documents, we wanted a different sort of metric. So this will allow you to kind of create another like query level monitor based off the same index and the time field. But you can associate an existing monitor, and these monitors could be looking at completely different data, and could be not just a query level monitor. These could be a bucket level monitor or a document level monitor or cluster metrics monitor that are looking completely separate things, but might actually still have some relevance to this visualization. So that's why we're kind of letting the users to associate any alerting monitor to this visualization. So it doesn't have to use the exact same metrics.
Cool. Yeah, I mean that's where I was going, was if it was tied just to that metric, that's cool, but it would be much cooler if it could deal with disparate, showing different metrics. To go to Nate's question, comment about seeing patterns of behavior, that's where showing two different metrics or seeing how one set of events is tied to some other metric could be useful. So very nice.
Thanks.
Yes. So almost, this is Joshua, almost like if you had a series of endpoints or a service with a series of endpoints and you knew there were dependencies associated with that service, right? You could have your standard dashboard that represents the service that you're representing or that you have ownership of. And then if it's like, well, sometimes things go bump in the night with some of the dependencies that my service has, you can associate monitors that are watching those other services and overlay those on top of your, proper service dashboard. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
And just to clarify, this is production or still experimental?
So when we plan to launch this, we will want this in production, and it won't be an experimental launch.
But it's not there. It's not there in 2.7, I guess.
No, it's not. This is still this is not launched yet. Yeah.
Yeah, we're targeting 2.8, and it's coming in hot. So
good stuff. Well, thanks for that, Ashish and Josh.
Thank you.
We're starting to make OpenSearch too easy, guys. People's jobs are at stake.
Okay. Well, OpenQA, if we have any more time, we're coming up on 15 till the hour. David Tippett, you look excited about something. Is there something I can give you some airtime for?
No, I'm excited about everything. That's all.
Yeah. So just in case you missed it, call for presentations is on for OpenSearchCon. I'll remind you one more time before we head out today. Maybe two more times.
If you follow me on Twitter, I will remind you every single day until the closing date. Someone's gonna block me for that, I'm sure.
Speaking of,
Yes. Also, did we mention the Chicago search meetup?
no,
the
I don't
beginning?
think we did. No.
Perfect
it away.
timing. Yeah. Also, if you have questions, like put a hand up, let us know. We will happily stop blabbering so that you can ask questions. There is a Chicago search meetup. Yeah, thank you, Joel. Yes. And it's gonna be phenomenal. It's for search people in Chicago. So come hang out with us, Bonsai, and there is one other group there that whose name slips me, but I'm sure Joel can drop it in the chat. Or they're also on the event page that he just dropped. Spantree, there we go. That's the one. Thank you. So yeah, if you're in Chicago, come hang out. Let's talk about search. And I'm going to be giving a presentation on search relevance introduction with BM25. It's very mathy, but it's super fun. So Joel can attest to that one. Also, are there any like issues that people have seen recently that they want to bring attention to? I know Mark had actually just linked earlier in Slack some search relevance issues that might be very interesting. Anything anyone want to bring up regarding what's going on in GitHub or stuff that needs attention?
This is Greg again. While people are thinking about that, I'll go ahead.
Yeah.
I opened 2 issues back in January related to the Helm charts for OpenSearch and OpenSearch dashboards. In terms of setting up kind of security best practices for the container images. Haven't seen much response to that. I mean, the specific ones were I was trying to set up read-only root file system, setting that to true. So I wanted to kind of call attention to that. I was a little troubled by the most recent response, which I appreciated someone responding, but it seemed a little Kubernetes deaf, if you will, when I raised it, and I'll put the issue in here. And you know, everybody has a bad day. I'm not picking on the responder, but their comment was, let's see. Read-only root file system. This is coming from the Kate side security context, but the OpenSearch application needs to write data to the file system in terms of logs as well as actual data. I'm not sure if you can use a read-only file system for applications like OpenSearch that constantly write data to the file system. That seemed a very non-Kubernetes, non-cloud kind of perception about how things need to work. You know, read-only root file system is a pretty much a best practice. The way I stumbled across this was, you know, Security Scan came across and said, "Hey, you guys aren't using read-only root file system." So I just want to, you know, like I said, the specific response and is less of a concern unless that reflects a wider disconnect between me and the OpenSearch, I guess, community. But I mean, the Helm charts are geared towards Kubernetes, or specifically for Kubernetes. Just wondered if you had a comment.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good call out, actually. I think the confusion there was the difference between the actual runtime file system rather than the what is that called? Storage for, you know, the indexes and all of that. Actually, I'm not familiar. How easily can those be separated out? Maybe someone smarter than me on the call, you know, like DB or actually Andrew might know better, but if those can be split out fairly simply, then yeah, I think we should definitely enable that by default.
Yeah, the issue, it was kind of interesting. So I posted another issue, which is one's OpenSearch and one's OpenSearch dashboards. I think for OpenSearch dashboards, the Helm chart there, both Helm charts show that you should be able to set read-only root file system. They just don't work because so that's the problem. The things don't start up. I think it was OpenSearch dashboards. You know, I could mount some empty dir file systems and kind of force it to you know, trick it into doing that. But it's kind of I think in the case of OpenSearch dashboard, the issue was it's trying to write a UUID to a file, and for some reason it's trying to write that to the, you know, the current root file system. So I mean, okay, stuff happens. Fair enough. Yeah. So that one, okay, we can kind of come a workaround. Ideally, we wouldn't need to, and eventually, that's one of those little bugs that gets fixed. On the
Yeah.
OpenSearch side, the issue, I couldn't get it around that. At one point, it looked like it was tied to Performance Analyzer, needing to write something somewhere. Managed to get that disabled, and even then, it was trying to write something somewhere. So both of those kind of just show, I guess, some historical artifacts from the the origins of OpenSearch predate the cloud, let's say. So I understand why some of that's there. Although we are now several years into OpenSearch, so was hoping it'd be a little more cloudy.
Yeah, actually, I think that's a good point. I might actually cross-post some of these in our security group, just because we haven't really, I don't think we've defined what, plugins can and cannot do as far as the root file system is concerned. And, that's going to be really pertinent when we're loading up extensibility, right? And all of a sudden we have this SDK. I guess technically it'll, well, DB just hopped on camera, so I'm going to hand the baton.
Well, so OpenSearch actually has, when it runs with GSM, Java Security Manager, it's actually quite hard to write outside of certain folders. So it has built in this idea that you will run on a read-only file system. It's less clear with dashboards, but I think we should treat these things as bugs. So if I don't want to say if I cared, I care. But if I made my life to fix this problem and end up with the goal of having Helm charts that have a read-only file system, I'd open an umbrella issue for that in OpenSearch DevOps, and then I'd start opening bugs for every one of these issues and actually fixing them. It's a wonderful place to start making code changes, because they are usually like path changes. The fact that, let's say, a UID file is created, well, it should be created in temp and not in I don't know, config. So that's probably a fairly straightforward change, but I have no idea where it is. Or so like open bugs, start making them and track them down. We did that for like the Windows release. There were, I think, like 40 open issues to get it working on Windows. It's just we worked through them one by one, and a bunch of contributors came to fix some of them because they really cared about Windows. So in the same way, I think we can do it for this. Does that make sense? I don't know who was speaking before, Mr. Smith.
Yeah, so I mean, that makes sense to me. I've opened issues. I mean, in terms of turning that into an umbrella kind of issue for the overall project, I kind of would defer that to, I guess, some OpenSearch staff.
No, you can totally do it. Don't worry
Yeah.
about it. Just make an issue and make a list in the issue. GitHub does this really nicely. If you just have checkboxes and links to actual GitHub issues, it will tell you like 50 tasks left in this issue. And then this way we can collect them. And when somebody else finds a problem, oh, my Helm chart doesn't work with a read-only file system, we have the collection. And maybe we'll be able to find an engineer to address the entire collection at once, or maybe we'll go piecemeal. But yeah, you have the same control over this as anybody else.
All right, so that was you. I'm sorry, just to clarify, I should open another issue in the OpenSearch. Which of the?
Well, let's see. We have OpenSearch DevOps, right? The DevOps repo, and I think your end goal was to get a Helm chart that ultimately has a read-only file system, right?
Well, actually, the Helm chart supports it. It's the underlying OpenSearch and OpenSearch dashboard applications that don't.
Yes, of course. No, I mean, like you want to modify the Helm charts that we have in this repo to be to have a read-only file system.
Well, no, the Helm charts already have the flags that we can set to true. It's just they don't work.
That's what I mean. So that's the issue, right? It's you set that to true, it doesn't work. So make an umbrella in this repo, Helm charts, that says when I set that to true, it doesn't work. And then for every specific problem, like for example, you found that dashboards writes a UID file. Open an issue in dashboards and then include it as a link in the top level issue which says when I set it to true, it doesn't work.
Okay.
So we know what it's for. And what I do is that in this child issue in dashboards, I'll write coming from, and I'll paste the link back to the Helm chart issue saying coming from there, I'm trying to enable that to true. That doesn't work because this file gets created. Let's fix it.
All right.
Yeah, give it a try. We have a bunch of examples. David, if you want to find like some of these umbrella top issues that let's look at you find a good one just to show you what they can look like.
Yeah, actually, now that I just, as I pulled it up, I realized that the Helm charts project is the repo in which I opened the issues.
Just for the sake of posterity here, what if someone wanted to get involved and learn a thing or two about the technologies involved, like what main things are we talking about? Helm charts, and they're operating some kind of container.
Well, I think the Helm chart work is actually fine. I think the problem is the underlying projects. Again,
Oh, I know. I'm just trying to learn all of the components involved so that
yeah. So the Helm chart basically, Helm charts let you set up a bunch of parameters basically that then are used to spin up pods and containers and configure them appropriately.
Gotcha.
Yeah, for Kubernetes.
So it sounds like it's an issue with the way our containers are made, because if they're, they all have moving parts, and if we're not careful about which parts are moving, if you set something to read only, that needs to be written to because of the way the container is made. That's probably why it's we need to change something. So I think I think Daniel is right about this one. We need to start keeping a list.
Sure.
Yeah, so we actually have done this. So do you have this? There's an issue that says OpenSearch dashboards fails to start when read-only file system is set to true.
Yeah, that's my issue.
That's his.
Yeah. That probably, I think we need to have one in dashboards that says it can't run on a read-only file system, and then debug it and figure out how to fix it.
And I dropped a good sample issue. It's help wanted for dashboards Puppet modules. It's got this nice little checklist. It's like, hey, these are all the different things required to get going with that.
But don't be afraid to touch dashboards. It's Greg. It's not like maybe it's a bit of a learning curve, but
yeah. Well, believe it or not, I actually don't know Java, so I don't think you guys want. You probably don't want me in there messing with the code.
No, we do. We do.
Appreciate it.
You're totally wrong. We absolutely want you to mess with code. First of all, this is TypeScript, JavaScript dashboards. So you don't need to know Java. But all that aside, I think the only difference between anyone who does and anyone who doesn't is just the time it will take you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I've never written a line of Rust, and then I tried to do something really tiny in the Rust client, and then something a little bit bigger, and then that's how we all learn. So it's actually a great opportunity when you need something to learn a new thing. But what? I don't know. If you have time, thank you.
Right. All right.
We'll help you.
All right. Appreciate it.
David Tippett will help you.
I'm going to come and personally work by your side. I'm going to fly wherever you are.
That's not creepy at all.
No, certainly not.
We could at least file the issue right now and then link them together as an example. Nice. So. Well, this actually led to some good discussion. We're actually 1 past the hour, so I don't want to keep anyone past the scheduled time. But if anyone else has any problems that they're having, or filed an issue that they're not getting a response on, are there any other people that we've left hanging out there? I can tell more dad jokes while we wait.
I think we're all good. Also, I linked the CFP again. Go submit CFPs.
There's a call for presentations out for OpenSearch Con 2023, which is going to be so awesome. September 28th at the Grand Sheraton in Seattle. A corollary to that is we just released the call for papers for OpenSearch Con 2023. And you should go click and submit all of the things.
Lots. As many as you can.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go spam it on Twitter now.